Thank you for joining us here today on Desertwood Days. I am here with the lovely Brenda Johnson. Welcome, Brenda.
Hi, Kathy. It's so great to be here.
Such a pleasure to have you. It's been so long.
I know. It's been a bit.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has. And it is a pleasure to have you.
Thanks.
So, Brenda, you are an actress. But I know you have something new going on in your life right now with painting.
Yeah,
So-
it might seem new, but it's actually something that I did long before I got into acting, but we'll get into
Wow.
that.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So we will get into that. But first we're gonna start with a little acting here.
Okay.
When did you start acting? When did you decide that you want to be an actress?
You know, it's kind of funny. It's unusual because most people acted in high school or when they were a kid. And I decided at age 45 to get into acting.
Oh.
Yeah.
What inspired that, you know?
Well, yeah. So when I was in my 20s, I lived in New York and I used to model when I was out there.
Oh.
And my agent had kept saying, you know, you really need to take some commercial acting classes and get into commercials. And I really wasn't interested in it at that time. I wanted to either do fashion modeling or just do graphic design, which is what my college degree was in. And acting just seemed like a whole nother ball of wax. It was just, you know. So I never did get into it. And then about 11 years ago, I guess I had lost some weight. My husband and I went on a diet together, and he was like, you know, you should really get back into modeling. And I was like, oh, come on, you got to be kidding. There's nothing around here.
He said, "Ooh, I'm checking out this fashion model here."
Yeah. So we actually got into an argument about it. I was like, no, you know, and anyway, so then he got me thinking, and I started thinking, you know, maybe I could be like the mom with the mop in the TV commercial or something. And so I started doing some research, and I realized, you know, there's a lot more for older women now that just didn't, you know, exist when I was in my 20s. There was a magazine, I think it was called More, that was for middle-aged women at the time. I don't know if that's still around.
Yeah, I don't know if I haven't heard much about it lately.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it still exists.
Yeah. So anyway, I decided to take a commercial acting class. So I called up a local agency, and they recommended a woman named Jean Fowler.
Okay.
And so I started taking classes with her, and she was very encouraging, and I really enjoyed it. And so she referred me to Danny's agency, and so I got with them, and it just kind of went from there.
Wow, that's awesome. It took that argument with your hubby to get you going.
It did. Yeah, it's kind of a weird way to get started, but then you know, the acting bug really bit me then, and I loved it.
That's great.
Yeah.
And you were also doing a lot of modeling, or were you doing a lot of modeling or more acting?
Well, in my 20s, it was all modeling.
Okay.
I was on MTV where I did some speaking things with ZZ Top way back in the day. But so then fast forward to now, it's more acting, you know, and less of the model, you know, because for people my age, you know, around here, it's more commercial rather than fashion. Yeah.
Right.
So,
can you tell me about tell me about one of your most memorable roles this far?
wow. Okay. You know, well, maybe one of them would be that I did it was a press conference in the Rainbow Room, which is the top of the NBC building in New York City. And they were doing a promotional thing for MTV. And so they had me and a couple other models there. And I would introduce them and just stand around with them. And then they did an interview with one of the guys from ZZ Top between my legs. So at the time they had, it was a James Bond movie that had a poster of a woman's legs from behind.
Okay.
I don't remember which Bond movie it was, but anyway, so they had me stand on two chairs, and then the camera was on one side facing my backside, and the interview was taking place with the guy Tad Lowe from MTV on the other side. And so that was all kind of fun. So, and then another really fun one, even though I was just an extra, I was in Hangover 3.
Okay.
That was shot in in Vegas, in front of Caesar's Palace.
Oh, okay.
And it was really just kind of exciting being right there, just from here to the door, with Bradley Cooper and Zach
Hmm.
Galifianakis. So I kind of fanned out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, if you hadn't gone into acting, what would you be doing at right now?
Well, I was telling these guys, commercial art director. I did that for 10 years, so I might be doing that.
Oh, okay.
But I kind of let my skills go by the wayside when I stopped doing that many years ago.
And with technology, things have changed. So,
Yeah, you really have to keep up, or you're just a
yes.
dinosaur. So I did get into fine art painting at that point, so then I didn't really keep up with it. Yeah.
Wonderful,
So.
wonderful. So, as you stated earlier, you've been painting for a long time. So,
Mhm.
tell us about if you remember the first piece that you ever did.
Wow. Yeah, I do because so as a kid growing up, I used to draw all the time. My sister and I, we grew up in a small town and there wasn't much to do, so you had to create your own fun. And so we just
Right.
sit around for hours and draw things. And um, I never did any painting until freshman year in college. In a drawing class, they had us do a painting in black and white. And so I
Hmm.
copied a Cezanne landscape, but it was just black and white. So that was my first painting. I can actually remember that. I mean, I probably played with watercolors when I was a
Uh-huh.
kid, but yeah.
And
So,
was this something that you were super passionate about back then?
well, I was passionate about graphic design and drawing, and not so much, really. I was looking at it more as a career that I
Oh,
could use my love of art
uh-huh.
in general, but I hadn't gotten into painting that much at
Okay.
that point yet. So it wasn't until after I had both my daughters, I guess, that I decided I wanted to just work for myself. And I was thinking about being a commercial illustrator.
Oh,
And
okay.
then since I had two little girls, I had a lot of friends that had little kids. And they started asking me to do portraits of their kids.
Hmm.
And so that's how I actually got into fine art,
Hmm.
believe it or not. So I can go into that more if you want to hear it. I
So, so were you self-taught, or did you study this, go to school for this, or would you consider yourself, as my brother would say, he's self-taught artist?
Well, I was self-taught at first. So when I first started doing those portraits, this would be about 21 years ago now. I do portraits of my friends' kids, and they started paying me for it, which was nice. And at that point, I was self-taught, so I remembered using oil pastels back in like high school or
Mm.
whatever, and I really liked how they worked. They're sort of like crayons, only a lot creamier. I don't know if you've ever used them.
I haven't.
And so I could take a 4x6 photo and draw like on watercolor paper with oil pastels and make it look exactly like the photo. And that was self-taught. And so it just took many, many, many hours.
Mm.
And so I was like, well, I had gotten a divorce at the time. And so I need to figure out a way to make ends meet. And, if you spend 40 hours on something and you only get $500, you got
Uh,
to like figure out how to work faster.
right.
So then I started going to Scottsdale Art School and taking classes in painting so that I
Okay.
could learn to paint and paint faster. And so
Right.
I've taken several classes there.
But I can see that being a great way of making money. I mean, because every parent wants a picture of their child.
That's right.
Yeah, so I can see that being really good. Would you if you looked at some of the great artists, would you say that you have any art influences? If so, who were they?
Yeah, I mean, I did like the Impressionists a lot, Monet, Renoir, um, for one. I also really love pop art. too. You know, Andy Warhol and just all that crazy, and a lot of the contemporary pop artists. I don't really work as a pop artist in that style, but I love the irreverence of like the street artists like Banksy and people like that. Yeah. So
I think because it seems so free.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly, and it's fun.
Where do you get your inspiration from?
You know, it's different things. Just beauty that I see around me, but I also really love bright colors. And I really like to take something beyond the way it really looks and add like really amp up the colors or you know zoom in on it or something in a different way so that it's not the way you would normally see it. You know, to me that just makes it more interesting and fun to be able to do that than just to copy a photo.
I am horrible at drawing. I am horrible, but I love color.
Me too.
I love color. I do. I love I mean, in everything that I do, I love rich colors.
I see that in the way you dress.
Whether it's food or, wardrobe, styling your home. I love rich colors. I've always loved rich colors. So that's awesome. I can't wait till we get to see some of your work today. You spoke of some of your influences. Was there any inspiration in your household that inspired you to be more creative?
Yeah, it's my neither one of my parents were artists. They both grew up on farms in Ohio. But my dad was pretty creative, and I think he could have been an artist. And there's actually a lot of artists in his family.
Okay.
So you know, he was a businessman, and grew up on a farm. But he made things out of gourds. He would paint gourds, and he made things out of wood. He made toys out of wood for us, and so he was very creative.
He was creative in his own way.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were speaking about your creativity and your father being creative in his own way. You know what? I think we're all creative in our own way. It may not be art. I'm not an artist. I mean, it may not be singing. We just all have our own gift.
I agree with you. Acting is a creativity and creative outlet.
Sometimes it takes a moment to tap into it to figure out what it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think we all have our own creative gift.
I believe that too, Kathy.
Yes. So you brought some media of some of your work. I am dying to see in here.
Okay, so this is one of my more recent works. It's called Dreamscape. And I've been getting more lately away from realism and into creating just maybe something you see in a dream or a fantasy world that you feel like you could step into because you know, we can go outside and see reality, but it's more fun to just create something that's like better than reality. And so right now, this actually hangs over my fireplace, but I want to do more like this.
And I love the colors there. I really do.
Thank you. I love those bright colors too.
Yes, beautiful. Oh.
This one's called Cupid in Charge. So these were my toys from when I was a kid.
Oh.
And I set them up in a still life, took a photo, and then painted this from the photo. So this is from way back when I was doing more super realistic things. But I love painting toys because I just think it's fun. And it's something everyone can relate to. And people can look at that and maybe it reminds them of the toys they had when they were a kid and hopefully of a fun time in their life.
Fun memory, yes. Yeah. That's beautiful. Oh.
So this was back when I was doing more portraits of kids. And this one's in oil. So this was after I did the oil pastel, which is more like a drawing. And I learned to paint. So they lived here in town and I had donated a portrait at some kind of fundraising gala, and this family had one, and so that's where that one came from.
Oh,
yeah.
That is so pretty.
Thank you.
She just looked so natural sitting there and like she was enjoying it.
Yeah, she was very natural. I took all the photos that I work from, too. I feel like, for me, that's important to not use another photographer's photos,
Right.
So,
Right. I agree.
yeah. So I recently also I've gone through an agave phase. I just love the way the composition of the agaves, and they just look like, to me, just positivity and
Mm.
opening up of something new and new possibilities.
Hmm.
And so I also like to push the colors beyond what you really see, and you can play around with the colors a lot with something like that. So, and then I like to also push it to where it's slightly abstract too.
Right. I love your play with color. I love that.
Thanks a
I mean,
lot.
the bold colors. You know what? Everyone has their own way of being creative. I mean, you have the ones that love doing black and white. I
Mhm.
mean, we had a guest on once that she used wood. I
Mm.
believe it was wood that she stated that she used for everything. I'm like, it's just amazing to see where people take their creativity to, the
Yeah.
levels that they can take it to. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. I actually was just meeting with a client today about a project that I'm doing. This family they have an exercise bike in this room that's all Western theme, and they wanted
Mm,
to cover up the exercise bike. So I'm collaborating with a woodworker who's also an artist, and it's going to be a cutout of a horse, a painted pony, and it's going to sit next to the exercise bike to cover up the bike.
mm.
And so it's really different, but I just really enjoy creative problem solving, and it's just kind of a wacky idea that they came up with, and I said, "Yeah, let's do it." I like doing different things,
Right,
and this woodworker's really creative too, so it's I like collaborating
right.
also. Yeah.
You know what? I love what you called it, a creative problem solver. Is that what you called it?
Yeah, so I guess this would be an example of it.
Yes, I love that. Um, is that something a term that you coined, or is that actually something that's called a creative problem solver?
I don't think I coined the term. I can't take credit for that, but I've heard it.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome because we all have some of those problems that we bring people in to solve for us, whether it's a designer in our home, in our painting our walls, or designing our set. I mean, we all
Yeah.
have those types of creative problem solver, whether it's doing something with our hair.
That's right. That
Yeah,
could be a problem.
yes, I love that. I love that term because I mean, we can all choose creative problem solvers in a lot of things in our lives.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
part of being an artist.
yes,
Yeah.
and especially in an entertainment industry because we as a whole are always resolving some type of problem
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of different ways. I mean, as actors, as filmmakers, whether we're telling a story to resolve a problem. So we're
Mm-hmm.
always create resolving problems. You got me excited there. I love that.
I was just going to say, I love how your face lit up when you were talking about being creative and being an actress.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. So, how would you describe to our audience your style?
Hmm. I would say it's kind of a cross between Impressionism and pop art, which I guess I just said those are my two favorite styles. So
Yes,
it's kind of a little bit of both. So,
yes, yes,
yeah.
yes, yes. And you had also mentioned directing. Where do you see yourself going with that?
Oh, with maybe art directing?
Yes.
Yeah, for film. Well, that's just an idea that I had, and I wasn't real sure how to get into it, but I've
Mm,
now talked to some people about it, and I just think it'd be kind of, in a way, combining my experience as an actress
uh-huh.
and being around film sets. I used to art direct photo shoots, mostly for product shots
Uh-huh.
like Haagen-Dazs ice cream or Moosehead beer. So I understand that you just do whatever it takes to make it happen. And you do have to get
Sure.
creative. Like when you're shooting a bottle of Moosehead beer, they always want it to look sweaty. And so they use glycerin and different things. It's not really
Mm,
water on there. And it takes hours and hours to get it right. But that's what you have to do. So I think doing art direction for a film set would be really fun and cool, just to kind of bring a whole mood to life. Who's that director? Wes Anderson.
mm,
Are you familiar with him?
no.
He has a very specific way that his sets look. It's really a little bit beyond reality. I can't explain it very well, but I think he would be an inspiration to me
Oh,
for art
okay.
direction. And I wish I could think of. I'm drawing a blank on any of his films, but they're all great, and the set is just phenomenal. So
That's
people,
awesome.
you can Google Wes Anderson movies. I can't think of any right now.
So, Brenda, where can our audience find you?
Well, I have a website. It's artbybrenda.com. And I'm also on Instagram, Art by Brenda. And I'm on Facebook, Brenda Johnson.
Wonderful. It was
Yeah.
such a pleasure to have you here today.
Oh, thank you.
And
It was a pleasure being here.
I look forward to seeing more of Art by Brenda.
Oh, thanks a lot. I look forward to seeing more of you now that we're all out and about more.
Yes, and it feels good, doesn't
It
it?
sure does.
Wonderful. And thank you for joining us today here at Desertwood Days, and we will catch you next time.